How are you? Hello, everyone. Welcome to this panel on smart charging. I'm Llambías Meunier. I'm CEO of Propulsion Québec, the cluster for electric and smart transportation in Quebec. And I'm pleased to moderate this discussion with Charlotte Argueux and Sylvain Cabanetos from Geotab and Cleo. And I really want to use all the time we have, so I'll jump right into it. I would like to start by hearing you briefly on your roles, your organization, so if you can introduce yourself quickly.
Sure, thanks so much. Great to be here. Charlotte Argueux. I'm with Geotab. My role there is Senior Manager of Sustainable Mobility. Who's Geotab? We are a telematics company, so we are in the connected vehicle space. And what we do is we take data off of vehicles, so the diagnostics from if it's a gas or diesel from the engine or from the battery, as well as other systems like seat belts, windows, wipers, all of these systems in vehicles today are digitized. So there's data that comes off of that. And then we also pull data from other third-party systems, and we bring all that data and translate it into actionable insights on an online platform to help fleet operators better manage their fleets. And so my role within Geotab is to look at the data insights that we are able to bring both on a fleet by fleet level, but also on an aggregate level, and figure out how we can leverage those insights to help advance decarbonization in the transportation industry better. So data-informed opportunities to electrify and how we can integrate these systems with other systems that are emerging.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlotte. Sylvain?
Thank you, Michelle. Nice to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Sylvain Cabanetos. I'm a business development manager at Cleo. Cleo, we're a subsidiary of Hydro-Québec. Our mission is to accelerate the transition through EV for fleet operators by helping them with that transition being a success. So we are providing two solutions. The first one is a turnkey solution regarding the infrastructure. That's really our core business, our expertise, but as well as a smart charging management platform that's going to help manage the energy, manage your infrastructure. So my role is really to talk to our clients, to fleet operators, all type of fleet operators, light duty, heavy duty, medium duty, school buses, etc., and see what are their plans regarding the EV and how we can help them making that transition a success.
Thank you, Sylvain. Can you hear us well? No, a little bit. I don't know if there's maybe a little bug with a microphone, so we'll try our best. Charlotte, before integrating smart charging software into their charging infrastructures, what kind of needs assessments should fleet operators, managers be conducting first?
Yeah, no, I think this is a really important question because when we say smart charging, I mean, we're usually talking about smart charging from the perspective of the software. And so, smart software algorithms doing load management or energy management across stations. But if you take kind of the fleet side of this or view of this, smart charging, it really starts even before the stations and the vehicles are deployed, and it starts in the planning phase. So right-sizing the system as a whole and being intelligent about both the number of charging stations you need, the types of power you need, based on the operation of that fleet itself, can then enable a better optimization for when the smart, like the software side of things comes into play for that to be optimized. So if we think about what kind of assessment to do that more intelligent planning, and so smart charging from the intelligent planning perspective, it starts with looking at the vehicle duty cycles themselves. So what vehicle class are you operating today? How far are these vehicles going? Under what conditions? So is it highway speed? Is it stop and go? Under what temperature conditions? So is there seasonality in there? And how far are they going before they come back to, say, the depot? And so this kind of information is so critical to start to project out what kind of energy needs these vehicles will need as they electrify. And then you can combine that with an analysis of the dwell cycle or depot analysis. So this is questions such as, are my vehicles coming back to the depot at the same time? Or are they staggered? And then when they do come back to the depot, how long do they have before their next trip? So are these vehicles sitting for 12 hours overnight? Or is it like a quick 30-minute changeover and it's off on its next shift? And so understanding both the duty cycle of the vehicles and then the dwell cycle of at the depot and also off-site, like are these vehicles parking at the same locations off-site or are they all over the place, can then inform how many chargers, do I need a 1-to-1 ratio of charging stations to vehicles? Do I need the fastest, it's really easy to default, I need the fastest power charger out there, or I always need as many chargers as I have vehicles. And for a lot of fleets, that's probably a poor investment in the charging system as well. So yeah, right sizing smart charging as a system perspective.
A really important phase that we need to, or you would definitely recommend every company should go through that first preparation phase to make sure they optimize the technology.
Yeah, and just to add, like every fleet's going to be different, so the optimization for one fleet is going to look different than another fleet, and so doing that based on your own data and your own operations.
You can't copy paste it. Okay. Sylvain, Cleo also provides smart charging software to its clients. So can you give us a picture of what smart charging software does? What are the main benefits? And I mean, of course, Charlotte, you talked about that as well, but what are the benefits of integrating this kind of technology into existing charging infrastructure?
So once you made a right sizing, you want to go to optimize. So there's different layers through optimization and through the smart charging management platform. First thing first, no optimization. You're plugging your vehicle, you're going to have the full power of your chargers. You don't want to do that, okay? Second one, I'm going to put a power ceiling. I'm connecting my charger, I'm going to manage a maximum power output. Afterwards, changing the layer. We are going to do maybe some charging rules, sequential charging, load management, we mentioned that. Gonna, play a little bit with the energy on that perspective. Move forward, integrate your vehicles. So integrate them through the telematics, the dispatch. The thing here, you really want to give the right amount of energy for your vehicle to do this operation. So that's very important. Last but not least, we're going through maybe AI. That's the topic of the of the panel today. But you want to go with the platform's going to do it for me automatically. I'm just plug in charge, and that's it. That's all. It's going to manage everything. It's going to run algorithm. We mentioned that to give charging plans. So that's the different layers for a smart charging management platform. We mentioned what are the benefits. So when I'm doing smart charging, first things first, operational side of things. I'm going to have many infos. I'm going to have alerts, so I can manage my whole infrastructure under one roof. Second thing you want to think about is the reliability. I want to make sure that all my vehicles have enough power to do their trips for the next day. And last but not least, electricity bills. You want to reduce the cost of it, so avoid power peaks, especially. So that's where the third benefit of using a smart charging management platform.
And thank you, Sylvain. Would you say it's more for the people in the room? Would you say it's more suitable for larger fleets, or it's also a great benefit for smaller fleets?
We have that question a lot. Depending on the size of the vehicle, if you're on light duty, medium duty, or heavy duty, there's different think about that. But I think you need to put a step into the smart charging even with your small fleet, because you're going to have the two first pillars that I mentioned. Operational assistance, you want to have that. Even if you have two vehicles in your fleet, you want to make sure that, oh, my charger is down. I want to do something. I want to be proactive. Second thing, reliability. The worst case scenario is I'm going through EV, a vehicle is not charged, I'm going to run a diesel because I got a spare. even if you have 2 or 3 electric vehicles. Of course, if we are talking about reducing my electricity bills, the more vehicle you got, the more benefits you can have with that. But I think you want to put a foot into that right direction of using a smart charging platform, even if you don't have a large fleet. So it's good for everyone.
Good, good. Charlotte, adding software to hardware opens up to new opportunities around capturing data, right? What does connecting a fleet telematics system really bring to the mix?
Yeah, so isolated, you have your smart chargers, and they can tell a lot of things. They can diagnose like if something's going wrong and any faults, or how much power is being sent at any given time. But without the fleet view, you're missing half of the equation. And so it's very not helpful from the operator's perspective to just have the software on the charging side. And likewise, it's not very helpful to just have the vehicle side data without the charging data. So the intelligence really comes when the two systems come together. And so, for example, the number one priority, I mean, we know cost savings and don't go over your peak demand. All these things are important in terms of load management and charge management. But the number one priority from a fleet perspective is my vehicles need to be ready when I need them. And so that should be number one. A charging, a dumb charger, if you will, it has no idea which vehicle needs to be ready. So then you add, algorithms or software that, you can suddenly do load sharing across multiple stations. Well, great, but if there's a whole bunch, let's say you have 6 vehicles plugged in at the same time, and you're expecting that charging system to, bring down the power and charge them all. Well, how does that system know which vehicle needs that power? Right? So bringing in even as simple as the state of charge of those vehicles. So it doesn't have, there's different levels of how intelligent you can get these systems, but right now there's no way for that charger to really know which vehicle's on which station, and let's say one is 20% state of charge right now, and another 70%. Okay, well maybe that system, if it knew the state of charge, and that comes from the vehicle side, that comes from the telematics side, then it can say, okay, I'm going to prioritize that vehicle that's the lowest state of charge. Then add another layer to that. Well, maybe the 70% state of charge vehicle is going out in 20 minutes, and the other one's sitting there for the entire day or the entire night. And so bringing in the dispatch then adds that other layer of value so that the system can know now which one to prioritize. And that's I'm talking about bringing the fleet management and vehicle side data over into the charging station space. But there's also value in bringing the charging station data over into the fleet operator space. So again, let's say I'm a fleet operator and I have all my assets, maybe I have multiple depots, I'm sitting on my computer, I have my fleet management platform in front of me, I'm making decisions based on that. Maybe I know where all my EVs are, I know the state of charge of them all. Well, wouldn't it be helpful if the station side data was in that same system, and I knew, which of my stations are in use today, right now, which ones are offline potentially, which vehicle's charging where, and so again, bringing the station side data into, we'll call it a single pane of glass for the actual operator, then brings so much more value than if that operator was only seeing the vehicle side data.
So it is compatible with other softwares that could also be integrated, like dispatch. You mentioned fuel card systems. You can have the whole package to really optimize your operations, right?
Yard management as well. You name it. Usually, you're gonna have to connect those tools through API. It's famous for everyone. Can be complicated sometimes, but yeah, you want to have as much as tool or software that you have to make better charging plans per vehicle and anticipate the needs that Charlotte mentioned.
Interesting. I wanted to talk about the challenges and the realities faced with smart charging today, and maybe more specifically on how quickly can those softwares adapt to future developments, new reality, increased demands, new standards and technologies that we're seeing almost every day now. For both of you.
Yeah. So just on the topic of the integrating dispatch systems and fuel card systems. So fleets have. There's been a huge change in the fleet industry and the connected vehicle industry in the last 10 years. Similar how there's been a huge advancement on the EV side, and there's so many different systems out there that are catering to unique fleets. So there's not one or two dispatch systems out there. There's dozens of them. And so today, for a charging system to integrate with all of those dispatch systems is impossible. Like there's just not the internal resources from the charging station provider perspective to be able to do a custom integration with each of those systems right now. So bringing in standardized ways of sending the information. So we know on the charging side, OCPI is going to help bring a standard form of sharing data from different software, charging station software, which can then be used by a fleet management system. Is there the same thing for dispatch? Well, today, no, there isn't. So what we're seeing on the ground is often it's a manual process. So let's say the fleet knows, okay, well, we know our vehicles all go out at 7 a.m. We're going to actually set that up as a 7 a.m. And then that can be integrated into the algorithm, but it's not today automatically pulling that data away. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is, speaking about standards, getting EV data, so state of charge, energy into the battery, energy out of the battery. That data is not standardized or regulated in terms of how the OEMs provide those signals. So a lot of, for example, for Geotab, a lot of our resources and work goes into figuring out for each of the vehicles out there what signal means what and translating it so that it's consistent across. So if I'm a fleet operator and I shouldn't have to worry about if I choose EV over here from make and a make model over there plus a make over here, I should be able to get the same data from those vehicles, and it should be able to be integrated within my platform and within my other systems that rely on that data to make decisions, whether it be routing, whether it be charge management, fuel compensation, charge compensation, that kind of thing.
Sylvain?
You mentioned about the being caught with the evolution. This industry grows fast. It goes fast. So if you're looking at that way, you have to adapt to the different software coming to the market. You mentioned that you can't integrate to all of those items. So that's where it can be complicated, but you have to think about what can I do, where I go next for those integration. When we are talking about those systems, we are talking about the unicorn mode in Cleo. I want everything connected on my platform. Okay, good. What are you using? I'm using this tool, and I buy it 10 years ago, but I want it connected to your software. And we're like, it's complicated. So start with some integration, basic integration, maybe with some tools that can help. But sometimes it can be complicated. You mentioned the standard. There's the OCPP for the chargers. Everyone in the room, I hope, heard about the OCPP. Oh, my chargers are OCPP 1.6. Okay, but when you connect those chargers to a platform, every manufacturer used to use that OCPP standard differently. So you have to adjust and adapt. So again, it can be a little bit painful to adapt to all those moving parts and new technology, but you have to make choices at some point.
Okay. And because more and more we talk about security, right? How do we manage that data? And I couldn't help but ask you, how does smart charging guarantee the security, the reliability of the charging operations on one side, but also in terms of protection against cyber threats, for example?
Reliability, when you have one tool that's having all the data at one place, it's going to help you. We mentioned that. I want to have my SoC at some point. I want to have my charger at some point. You mentioned that. Are they up? Are they down? I'm going to have some alerts. I want to be proactive on that maintenance as well through the chargers. The more information you're going to have, the more reliability you can bring to your EV operations. Cyber threat is something, especially on the chargers. They're weak on the cyber security. So if you are looking for a platform, please make sure that you're going to have a look at the data loss protection, data encryption, single sign-on, SOC 2 certification, for example. That's something that you need to have on top of mind. Sometimes we're saying, oh, cybersecurity will get that a little bit later. That's super important in the EV space, in my opinion.
And you want to address it at the very beginning?
At the very beginning, because you don't want to run after that once you have hundreds and hundreds of vehicles and chargers through a platform.
Mm-hmm. Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different from the vehicle side. So the data that we're pulling doesn't have any control on the vehicle. So it's more of a rather than a cyber threat, it's a security issue, which is also really important. So yeah, for us, and there's terms that I don't know, like cryptographic. I don't really know what that means. We do cryptographic algorithms, but essentially what we do is any data that gets transmitted, we secure it. And so you can never have identifiable data that can be accessed from a third party. The data is the fleet's data, they own that data. And yeah, security and privacy is top, because the data that's coming off of this includes location, includes essentially PII, and so Geotab takes this extremely seriously. We have an entire team that works on also standardization and working with the regulatory groups as well, so that they keep up with the technology change and yeah, make sure that data can't get into the hands of anyone else other than who it's meant for.
I was curious about that last aspect you just mentioned, the standards and regulations, depending on, of course, if you're working in Canada or in the US, or I imagine it differs, and you need to adapt constantly.
Yeah, and it's different in Europe as well.
In Europe
yeah.
as well,
yeah.
of course. You talked a little bit about it maybe when we mentioned challenges, but what's coming next in smart charging and telematics?
Want to go first?
Sure. Crystal ball time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
for the minutes that we have, for the 5 minutes we have left before questions.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. AI is exciting, and I know AI is part of the topic of this. So there are so many pieces that have set us up to be in a really exciting place. So they haven't all come together quite yet, but at the rate of change within this space, it's something that I can foresee. What's beyond that, it's so impossible to guess. But I'll give an example. So let's go back to the planning stage. Right now, we're already able to do a query on past trips and understand, what the predictive energy consumption of those vehicles would be if they were electric, and what the total cost of ownership opportunity would be. So imagine now with generative AI, and this is also something that we have and are bringing to our platform, imagine being able to ask the system, without being a data scientist, hey, which of my vehicles could go electric, or where should I start with my electric, and what kind of charging infrastructure setup do I need at this depot based on the data? So I'm asking in a natural language, and it comes back with me to me with an answer for that. That's on the planning side. Then take that and say, well, now that I have EVs in my fleet, when should I charge, or how do I need to charge to 100% today? Or can the system, and this isn't taking the human aspect out of it, the system can ask and figure out, well, based on historical data of how this vehicle has been traveling and it's pretty consistent, and we know its routes. We know you need 65% state of charge, and you need it in this window. And so then the system automatically does that. So this is kind of the future of smart charging, smart AI. Bring in all of a sudden site storage, or bring in vehicle to grid. And there's all these components that it can start like feeding this information to make a decision. So it's not about the data, it's about the insights that the data can bring, and then making the decisions from those insights.
Predictables.
Yeah.
Making decisions predictables.
Yep.
Okay.
AI. Okay. Usually I'm not liking that much that word. It's kind of a buzzword in the space saying, hey, I'm doing AI. But when I saw what we are doing at the moment at Cleo through AI, I'm like, there's something in it. So just to make that clear, we're not doing generative AI as much as Geotab can do it through his items, but we're doing predictive AI. So we mentioned a little bit that integrate your dispatch can be painful, or sometimes you can manually add your route saying that vehicle is going to go there. You have to do it manually, so that's a pain point for our users at the moment. So like, how we can help them? So if we are using the data, the historical data, to understand what your vehicles are doing, what are their duty cycle, we can do some machine learning to anticipate and predict what are the needs for the future. So that's where we're at the moment, saying we're going to learn your routes and predict your needs for tomorrow. And regarding the mileage you're going to do and the start and end date of your routes, the weather, the traffic, you can take that into consideration to saying, I'm going to put the right amount of electrons in your vehicle instead of just smart charging like that. So that's where we're at on the AI side of things. You mentioned as well all the stuff around V2X, pretty interesting, all the stuff. So when we're talking V2X, V2B, V2G, all those ones, we're going to have some announcements soon as Cleo as well. We have a look at that. But I think that's where the smart charging is going to. AI, V2X, you have to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that very most interesting discussion. It's now time if you have questions in the room. I don't know where the microphone. Oh, I see one microphone there. So we still have a few minutes for questions. Anyone? That means it's very clear. Oh, I think we have.
Thank you very much for all the talks and information you shared today. Much appreciated. I have a quick question. This is a two-way talk between vehicle and the charging station management software to integrate and make the right amount of decisions to deliver power. Vice versa, if it is V2G or grid to vehicle. What do you think from the auto manufacturer's perspective? I know OBD data is there, which is supplying data, from which softwares like Geotab are trying to integrate with the charging station management software. How do you see auto manufacturers uniting, sharing this data in certain language or platform so that industries can be standardized and it can be easily integrated between the different charging station management softwares, charging station itself, utility, and ultimately vehicle itself?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're in the early stages right now of the OEMs trying to figure out what they want to do with the data. And so they're playing it a little bit more risk conservative, where it's like, well, this data might be valuable, and so we're going to try to keep it closer to the chest than push for a standard. And so that's what you're seeing, and you're seeing kind of vertical integration of from OEMs on a data platform for that particular vehicle make and model. The reality is most fleets are going to be using more than one manufacturer in their fleet. Like there's a lot of mixed fleets out there, and so then the question is, well, are each of them going to then integrate with all the others, or is there going to have to be an open platform, an open standard, where all that data gets shared or put in a language where the signals are meaning the same thing. And so, yeah, I mean, we have regulations for medium heavy duty on the diesel side related to tailpipe emission standards. And those don't exist for EVs because there's no tailpipe, and so it's a bit of a gap. There's a lot of conversation right now in the US about right to repair, and that conversation is tied to this one, where it's saying, you know, the operator or anyone who wants to do maintenance on a vehicle should have the right to the data that they need to do those repairs. And so it's kind of in the similar vein, like the fleet operator should have the right to the data to be able to operate their fleets. And with EVs, it's even more critical than with gas and diesel because of all these other systems that have to come hand in hand, like the charging, like the dispatch, like the routing. You need that information to be able to optimize your fleets. So we'll see where it goes, but I think we're still in the, we're kind of playing in these early days. Let's see what we can do with this data. Eventually, I think it's just going to have to come together.
Sylvain, did you want to add anything?
Maybe add a thing on the EV space is new and everything's going in every direction. And we love to use that term. This is a co-petition. We work together for the same goal. You know what I mean? At some point, EVs is new space, but the manufacturers needs to be a little bit more open. The charging manufacturer as well, et cetera, et cetera. That's where some association or like Propulsion Québec can help on that perspective. But that's why I think we have to work all together. At some point they want to keep that vertical. You mentioned that, but there's some. I think from time to time, the OEMs starting to be a bit more open about sharing their data.
But it's still early stages, so there's they're nervous a little bit, or they don't know what they can make with or optimize all that data for now. So understood. Any other question? I see there's someone at the microphone.
Hi, folks. Thanks for a great discussion. It really got the creative juices flowing and me thinking a bit more about the future. And the question I'm going to ask is more of an ecosystem question, but I think you play a part in it. And how far do you think we are away from having like inductive charging robots when we're talking about smart charging and AI? And again, I recognize that's vehicle OEMs, that's charging station suppliers, but I also think that you're going to play a part in that as well.
It's funny, I was just having that conversation. I was like, we need to make a company where there's an inductive charger that just like goes underneath vehicles overnight. So that is actually one of the big challenges with fleets today is the queue management. So in many cases, fleets aren't doing one-to-one charger, and there's different reasons why. So the number one priority for them is not about managing the load when all the vehicles are plugged in. It's about managing the queue of chargers. And so some delivery fleets that we work with, they've actually had to hire people who hang out at the depot overnight and literally move vehicles, and they use our system to know which one to plug in next. So they're getting that intelligence in the decision making, but it's still a manual process of someone moving, plugging in, unplugging. So it's I mean, I don't have an answer for how far away we are to that, but it's a really important question to ask. Is that sustainable? Is there another way that we can go get around that? Do we just have really low power and put it in every single parking lot, and then you don't need to manage the vehicles and the plugging? But
yeah, we saw the same thing on the transit side of things, first in, first out, all that mechanic on the yard management. But just add on another topic, I saw a little robot moving shunters from a video, not so far. So we can do the same for charging. That's a good idea. I think there's a thing, and we had the same thing you mentioned, Charlotte, for some of the operators saying, "Oh, I got somebody on the field changing, the plugs." It's good for the beginning, but yeah. But how far we are from that, I don't know. Crystal ball, you mentioned that at the beginning, we're talking about AI. Crystal ball, I don't know.
Thank you.
Any other question? No? So AI, V2X, maybe inductive charging. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's it.
These are the last words. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for attending. This is all the time we had. We even had a little extra 2 minutes, but I think we're gonna finish here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.